Well, hello again. So I figured out how to enter this plane of existence so that you fellas can see me. Anyway, today we'll be returning to the world of Reckless to talk about yet another creature. The creature in question is the starving, the feral zombie. The zombie is one of the first attackers implemented to the game, and he has gotten so many reworks in the past that he probably became one of the more interesting characters in the game. Zombie, unlike what you would see in movies or video games, is in fact the fastest attacker in the game, serving as a hyper-aggressive rushdown character with a cool little gimmick to keep it interesting. Zombie has actually some of the most downright brain-dead moves in the game, which basically means that they barely take any strategy to use. Like, all of his moves, even though they're not really simple, I'm gonna have to explain, they are really difficult to use with the brain. You can just throw them out there and they're gonna do something. However, as a word of wisdom, simple doesn't mean bad in any right. Let's begin with his M1, which has a few quirks. 1. It deals pitiful damage, only 15. 2. Has the quickest cooldown in the game to make up for the poor damage. And 3. It applies bleed since Zombie is a greedy bastard and likes to sink his claws in his prey, dealing an additional 15 damage. With this alone, he sounds pretty weird and oh, you're not ready for what his quirk is gonna be. His passive, which makes Zombie what he is today, is the most cool idea for a rushdown passive I've seen in a while. It's called Starved, and what it does, it's really simple. It drains Zombie's health by 1 hit point every second. Now, Zombie has 600 HP, which means this is a pretty pointless passive, no? Well, yeah. Since you'll be running into multiple stunners in a match who deal a lot of damage, you'll see how bad it gets real quick. This is the genius of this passive though. It basically puts you, the player, on a ticking time bomb to kill as many survivors as you can, or even win the match before you expire. Now, don't be going panicking anywhere. There's stuff you can actually do to not get butt fucked in the ass for in 30 seconds. One of which is to just, not get stunned. Have you ever thought about that? But, okay, I know what you're thinking, so let me actually tell you the implemented counter to this passive, which comes in form of his abilities. His first is called Charge, and it does what you would think it would do. It makes you charge forward. What you might have not thought of, though, is how it actually works. So you see, when it's used, Zombie starts flailing his arms all over the place whilst rushing forwards. You can control where you're headed with your camera, and if you run in a survivor, it deals 10 damage. Wow, 10 damage? That's useless! Now, hold on. I didn't finish. First of all, also shut the fuck up, I didn't let you out of the basement for nothing. The charge can hit the same target over and over as long as you land the hits. Now this is where the dopamine kicks in. See, if you land this move 5 times in a row, Zombie will pick up the survivor that was unfortunate enough to be the last hit target and proceed to bane them, dealing 20 damage and healing Zombie a small amount. Now, to make things a little easier on Zombie's side, each time he lands a hit with this, his charge gets extended by a small amount. I don't think that's bad. It helps him, don't get me wrong, it lets him keep going for a bit longer to hopefully land the slam, but most of the time if survivor jukes one of your attempts to hit him with a charge, it's over. It ends there. Now, this move wrecks groups of people. So he can just ram into a lot of them at once and get a slam quickly if he lands the full move in the time that he has. And if he manages to land the move, he heals himself and stops the health decay for a short period as a bonus. Unfortunately, whether you land the whole move or not will always result to Zombie getting heavily slowed when it ends, regardless. So make sure you're confident you'll get the most out of it when you use it. His other move is called Grab and Bite, and yet again, it's pretty self-explanatory. Zombie preps his arms for a bear hug, and if he misses, he gets heavy end lag. Otherwise, he grabs a survivor and then pulls a baldy and digs in, doing 20 damage and poisoning the target for 25 additional damage, while healing himself a small amount. Now, that's a lot. But trust me, it isn't really hard to land. Just wait for your target to jump and throw it in there and it should land like 80% of the time. Just remember that poison doesn't fully kill a target, rather they live on 0.1 HP, so better to target survivors that have a bunch of health to utilize the maximum damage of the move. As for his last move, Smell, it's pretty unique for a hit sense ability. Zombie stops to sniff the air for cocaine before pinging the location of all survivors, since let's be honest, for someone like Turquoise to have a swap potion, he probably took some sort of hallucinant beforehand. On top of that, it makes all survivors on the map 20% more vulnerable to damage for 6 seconds or so. In other words, you can support your teammate by using this. Just be wary of the huge wind-up to use the move, since it makes Zombie stop for a while to sniff the air.
I am so excited, I think I'm gonna explode!
Now, it's obvious that the Zombie is really good by himself already, but we have to analyze what he's really good at if we're going to give him a good measure of his ability. Let's begin with strengths. Zombie has a whopping 24 movement speed, the highest in the game, allowing him to catch and outpace pretty much everyone with ease. This allows him to dodge incoming attacks with less risk and catch up to speedsters far easier. That basically means that he's good against survivors like Azure, Jay, and Pearl, since they rely on getting distance rather than really stopping you when you're in a chase with them. Now that's good and all, but what about getting through large HP chunks that get healed over and over? Well, the grab and bite does their job pretty much perfectly, chipping through health automatically whilst doing the extra damage with your M1s if you land them. And since he's pretty frantic in his assault, he can switch targets whenever, especially switching to a healer. Now, he sounds really annoying, and he is, but he still has weaknesses, right? Well, yes, and some pretty big ones at that. Even though he is a jack of all trades with his speed, if he can't land his moves consistently, he will eventually starve. So stunners and disruptors can absolutely pop his balls like balloons if they play correctly. Specific counters are Tangerine, Turquoise, and Charcoal with the range stuns and their ability to fuck up chases from him easily. But they still die if they get into a scuffle by themselves. Who is a downright brick wall for Zombie?
We are so fucked.
Maroon counters Zombie so hard that it's not even close. He can stun him at any moment with his slash if he's unpredictable enough, and can use block to completely halt Zombie's charge before he can do anything with it. Now, this is all on paper. Sure, he in practice can do a lot of stuff to avoid this, like baiting block by swerving out of the way, or saving your jump to avoid his stun. But even then, a counter is a counter. It's only a matter of time. Since this game is built for two attackers and above to be present in a match, Zombie can synergize with his teammate in order to be more efficient in killing off the enemy team. Zombie pairs pretty bad with Mummy, Parasite, and Draco Bloxer, since they either stop people from moving, which Zombie doesn't really need to see so fast, and or are pretty slow, so they can't catch up to an LMS or a far-off group that are in the chase with Zombie. However, he's excellent with a Robot, Skeleton, Scarecrow, and Ghost. Since Robot can glide over into action and fire projectiles from a distance, Ghost can travel quickly to anyone and slow them down, Scarecrow has a global slow for the survivors, and Skeleton can buff his already insane speed. The rest of the attacks are pretty meh. He can work with them, sure, but they aren't gonna make much of a difference. But yeah, that about wraps things up with Zombo over there. So just have some discipline with your moves and do wonders with this feral abomination. That's all for me. See you next time.
Start audio log. This log was recorded to document one of the latest incidents in Robloxia. An assault took place in the Greenlands, close to a nearby swamp. A civilian was reportedly attacked by an unknown threat, as our observer drakes have discovered. We had sent a rescue party to hopefully neutralize the target and prevent any harm. However, when our forces arrived, it was far too late. Whatever clash had occurred there had already ended a while ago. We investigated the area for any leads to what could have happened. Our scout discovered two important details. 1. There was a few nearby puddles of blood. Some of them contained pieces of Robloxian flesh. We assumed that whoever attacked that civilian wasn't the person, but rather something with animalistic instincts. 2. A trail of footsteps through the mud that led us to a small pond. There we found something quite peculiar. A green humanoid, presumably dead, floating in the water. After a quick examination, this seemed to be one of the undead creatures that had attacked the village of the Thunder Wizards a while back. We decided to name it Zombie for obvious reasons. The body is currently getting tested on by our mages to find out more of their nature as we speak. This whole attack is raising some red flags for us, however. Another creature of unknown origin is after a civilian that, upon closer inspection, comes from the same group of people that the previously documented Parasite had attacked. These attacks aren't at random, rather are coordinated by someone behind the scenes. We don't have enough evidences for now for who is behind this, but if this continues, we will have to keep our watchful gaze over the supposed group. End of log.